Did it go? Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Tilting Ground Untitled Notre Dame USC Football Podcast. I'm Michael Muto. I'm here with Greg Flamon. Hi, Greg.
Hi, Michael.
So I told everyone we'd be doing something fun today since it's a bye week for both our schools, or it was a bye week for both the schools we root for.
Yes.
And what we're doing is the first time him and I have ever been on a podcast together, if you don't count the Tilting Ground NFL Draft podcast. This is for the Tilting Ground completists. You've heard him before. You've heard him with Greg. You've heard him with our friend Justin. It's another Notre Dame fan. Sorry, Trojans. Tim Narkis. Hey, Tim.
Hey, guys.
Timmy boy.
It's an honor and a pleasure.
So we always mention you. Your name comes up like twice an episode.
Yes,
I send lots of emails.
Surprisingly, I missed those. I don't see him in the.
How has he never been like one of the listener emails with the question? That's what I want to know.
I didn't want. This was break glass for when we needed it, and both our teams were on a bye week. So I said, "Let's break the." He's like our Adam Carolla, and we're Jimmy Kimmel. Like he's just there for us.
That's fantastic.
Well, these are desperate times. So
for you guys,
yeah, definitely.
Hurtful, Michael.
As my team didn't want to be Hollywood, but they're about the Trojans are the most Hollywood that you can be, a facade. So let's start with them. On the bye week, the only news out of USC is Jabari Ruffin is suspended, kicked off the team. He is famous for stomping an Alabama player in the groin. Other than that, he hasn't done much. He was a 5-star recruit. I don't know what he did, so say la vie.
Making that, isn't he a 55? Isn't he making that 55 jersey proud?
No, he's number 40.
Yeah, I think it was in the 40s.
Yeah.
I'm terrible. I'm sorry.
It's okay. So that's the only big USC news coming out of the week. Just more of the same. So another reason I thought to bring Tim on actually is the question that's just going around USC message boards and friend talks and everywhere. You know, pundits, USC pundits if they have those, is how did USC lose to Stanford? And there was one guy I know who wouldn't stop telling me the week of the Stanford game that USC was going to win. It had nothing to do with USC. He said, Stanford's bad, Mike. Stanford's bad. And that's Tim Narkis.
I did lose maybe some money online gambling.
You were just a week too soon.
Yeah, I watched a little bit of their game versus Kansas State. That opening weekend, and then it kind of just felt like, I mean, they lost Kevin Hogan, and he wasn't even very good, but they just look slow. Like they basically look like an average to like bad Big Ten team, right? And so like I just thought like even with USC's like coaching issues, like they would just kind of out talent them. Which is kind of shocking considering like Washington State kind of just out talented them by like 30. So that's what I had kind of thought. And like if they played next week, like I would still love USC to beat them. Like of course, right?
Well,
like,
you definitely would now.
Yeah, I don't even know. I'm trying to even think back. I don't even really remember the game too much, but like I don't know if it was like a Max Brown, Sam Darnold thing, but it just felt like USC had way more like skill players and athletic players and more talent, and like this is like the worst Stanford team in the last 10 years.
And somehow USC lost to them.
Yeah, they didn't even they didn't cover, I don't think either.
I don't think
they
so.
lost and didn't cover. So
I think the wheels fell off towards the end, but
yeah,
it was close for a while, and then things went really bad in third and fourth quarter.
I may have lost some money, but like I was still right about Stanford.
You were right about Stanford.
Yeah.
Stanford's really bad.
I mean, something our teams have in common is the Stanford loss.
Well, but like yours, like you have an excuse. Like I feel like USC has an excuse. Like they started the wrong quarterback. Like what's Notre Dame's excuse?
Well, Notre Dame's excuse is they aren't good.
Well, right, but like why are they not good?
Well, we'll get there. Let's not spoiler alert or foreshadowing.
Okay, sorry.
It's okay. It's my fault. So speaking of starting the wrong quarterback, what? So Greg and I have been going back and forth about this all season long. Why did the coaches start Max Brown, Tim?
Oof.
I mean, what do you? I mean, there's no
Like-
real good reason.
Right. I think the thing that would worry me is, Clay Helton's been with both of these kids since they walked on campus. Maybe not as the head coach, but as one of their primary coaches.
He knows what they can do.
He's
Yeah.
been there forever. Yes.
So, like, you would think that, like, with he's been with Max Brown an extra year, but, like, for the most part, like, he's seen everything he needs to see, which I thought was weird because they named Max Brown the starter, like, pretty late in camp, right?
Yeah, they kept the competition open for a long time.
Right, which is kind of weird because it's like you've seen these kids for so long. Like, what haven't you seen that you're hoping to see?
Right.
And if you're keeping it open, I feel like that means you want to go with the young guy, or they're all young, but you want to go with the new guy.
I mean, when Greg and I watched the Alabama game, like, Alabama's so good defensively, it didn't feel like it would have mattered, right? Like,
Right.
It really didn't feel like it would have mattered. So, I guess that's a little unfair. Then they beat up on Utah State, right?
Right.
I mean, you know better than I do. I don't really remember that game, but, like, I imagine Max Brown played okay.
He played fine.
Yeah, and then, they have the back-to-back trips to Stanford, and then they pull him, and then they put in Sam Darnold against Utah, right?
Yep, that's exactly how it went down.
And then Sam Darnold had, like, 8 fumbles against Utah or something.
He did have a lot of fumbles against Utah.
Yeah, so, I think here's the issue. And it kind of mirrors, like, the Clay Helton thing. Like, all of a sudden, everybody's playing a lot better when they're playing, like, not good teams.
Oh, for sure.
Right? So, like, Arizona's not good. Arizona State's not good. Colorado's all right. But coincidentally, that was when they only scored 21 points. So, like, I don't know that Sam Darnold's better, but, like, since they're playing way worse teams, they're obviously getting better results.
I've been saying that for weeks.
Yeah,
I here's the thing though. It, like, the way, like, yeah, he fumbled all the time against Utah, but he looked really good.
And Colorado.
He looked better. Like, and Utah is not a doo-doo team at all. Like, he was sharp. He was getting the ball out. He was getting people involved. He was scrambling around. Like, I believe it was, like, raining or really cold that day, right?
In Utah, yes.
Yeah, so, like, he looked a lot better than Max Brown ever did. Like, I didn't expect that. So, like, seeing him the way that he played against Utah, that's when I thought, well, wait a minute. Like, if he's going to look like this, and then in subsequent games, he's just gotten better and better. Now, granted, it's true, like, they haven't played as good of competition, but it's like Max Brown didn't look good against Utah State either.
I don't know. Like, I don't.
He didn't look bad though. He looked competent.
Right, but Sam Darnold played a real team. Like, Utah's a real team on the road.
Right. Well, quarterback coach Tyson Helton said that with Sam Darnold back there, they can use the whole field, which is worrisome.
I don't like that. That just, like, that comment right there. Like, it's like, then why were you sitting him?
Right.
I could see against Bama, but it's like, even then, it's like, if it's that drastically different, then what are we, like, what were you thinking?
You got me, man.
It's not even close.
Yeah, it's really crazy because, like, they had both kids the whole time.
And Darnold just seems so much better, or at least exciting. I don't know if better, but, like, he can get away with more. He can bail himself out.
Yeah, he's certainly more athletic in the pocket, but, like, even now, right? So they play Cal and Oregon. Like, those are 2 of the worst defenses, like.
So that's great.
In FBS.
Yeah.
So, like, he's gonna look amazing. Like, they're all gonna look amazing offensively, but I don't know. Like, I guess we'll see against Washington, right? Like, what's that? 2.5 weeks or 3 weeks away?
Mm-hmm.
That's where it's gonna be. Like, that's. I think I've heard you guys talk about it before, but, like, that's really their season.
Yes.
Because
they can't lose anymore.
Yeah, like, if they beat Washington, then they're gonna have a chance at, winning the South and, going to a decent bowl. But like you lose to Washington, now it's like, oh, you're a 4-loss team, and now you're playing on like December 23rd or something.
Is
like
Utah in the South?
that. Yeah,
Utah, they are in the lead in the South right now.
Right.
they're going to lose to Washington this week.
And then Colorado holds the tiebreaker over Utah, I think.
Well, no, they play. That's the last game of the season.
Oh, that's right. That's the last game of the season. So if
That's like
Colorado beats them.
that's like the made up rivalry that like when they did the expansion, like, oh, we're gonna make Colorado and Utah right.
Dude, Utah and Colorado, man.
Border war?
That's for the storybooks right there. I mean, people have been talking about that tilt for decades.
Well, actually, like I was goofing around today because Colorado, I think they're back in the rankings, and like they have a pretty, I guess, manageable schedule. But like since USC beat them, they basically need to lose to somebody that's not Utah, right?
Yes.
Because like USC's banking on Colorado beating Utah.
Well, they need it.
Like,
I mean,
yeah, to like kind of catch up. So, yeah.
full disclosure, Tim lives in Colorado.
I do.
He doesn't
Yeah.
just follow Colorado football articles.
8.5 years I've been here.
Oh my God,
That's a
crazy.
long time.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Jeez. So we're speaking a lot of Sam Darnold talk, and another thing I saw cruising around the internet today, since Sam Darnold's a young guy, people were trying to compare him to other quarterbacks. And yeah, I thought it'd be a fun little game while we're here on a bye week, nothing going on. So I'll go first. He reminds me of Andrew Luck, but not Andrew Luck in college. Andrew Luck now, who runs around and just has to make crazy plays. And ball security, a little dicey, but he ends up making the plays. That's kind of how I see it. He can move around with his legs. Maybe he shouldn't. Maybe he should. I don't know. Bad haircuts, and he could throw it down the field.
He does kind of have like that quirky throwing motion.
Or you should have seen some of the people that they were throwing out there. The thing I saw today, it's like, oh, John Elway.
Wow.
Steve Young. I was like, okay, guys,
That's a little.
let's just cool this down a little bit.
Man, I thought you were getting a little up there with Andrew Luck.
No.
I mean, I guess I should go and just say Joe Montana then.
Right?
Joe Montana, Joe Theismann. Let's just name all the Hall of Fame quarterbacks. Brett Favre.
Oh, there's a lot of Favre too. There's a lot of Favre.
Jeez.
Really?
Yeah, it was crazy. I think it's
Yeah,
because he has a
I
four in
always-
his jersey.
It's just hard for me, and maybe I don't know enough about him, but like when I watch USC, like I feel like they have so much talent on offense, right? So like it's hard for me to be like, man, if the quarterback's not really good, then he must be kind of mediocre because they have so much more talent at every position than everyone they play.
That's how I feel.
Right? So like man, if he just played mediocre, they would score 35 points a game.
I mean, that's the Matt Leinart corollary right there.
Yeah. Like just kind of just don't screw it up. Throw it in the vicinity of your receivers. Like let them make plays.
Make the right read. Like
Yeah.
you don't have to win the game. You just have to not lose it.
Right. Man, that's a really good question. It definitely seems like in the last year or so, like USC's gone away from this like pro style offense where like all the like passing numbers are legitimate, and now they go to this spread, which like when you talk about like Texas Tech or Baylor quarterbacks, like you look at their passing and you kind of like illegitimize it and be like, oh well, they run this like silly offense. So I don't know, maybe like one of those guys, but like maybe a little more athletic.
Well, great segue. Speaking of wacky offenses that score, throw the ball around a lot. Coming up this weekend, USC has Cal. And
Yeah.
I think they broke the record for plays in a game last week. So that's exciting. But they can't stop anyone. So that's also exciting. I don't know if that's good for Cal that they have a new quarterback in there and he just picks right up where the old one left off, or bad for Jared Goff.
Well, considering Jared Goff hasn't played in the NFL yet, like it's bad for Jared Goff. I
Bad
feel
for
like.
Jared Goff. Well, I feel like USC beat them last year, right? So
They haven't lost to them in like
a long time.
since that Matt Leinart game. That was it 03?
I think that sounds about right.
There was a field goal at the end, right?
Yeah, I don't know if it was like overtime or double overtime, but I think it was right around there.
But yes,
I never got to say who I thought.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You're
Go.
ruining everything.
Oh, no, I thought you said Joe Montana. And
Oh, he was joking.
No,
He
I
was
was
being
joking.
facetious.
I think he's a like a more mobile Major Applewhite.
Wow. No, that's really good.
More mobile, huh?
FNA, that's really good. Well, Major Applewhite was not mobile at all, but it's like
Right.
just throwing to open guys all the time.
Yeah.
You know, always like kind of knew where the ball should go. Like he has a good arm. He doesn't have a great arm. So, but he can run the spread. Major Applewhite couldn't do that. So
that's going in the show notes right there.
To the what?
The show notes.
Show notes.
Greg called Sam Darnold a new generation's Major Applewhite.
Not quite. Hey, Major Applewhite won games. Okay,
That's true.
Let's just
That's
get
true.
that out there. Not quite John Elway. Not. That's a bridge too far for me.
I don't know how you can compare him to any NFL quarterback. Really
Yeah,
don't.
like I don't.
Like that's crazy.
I'm all set on the Steve Young comparison.
Oh, that's great. That was great.
Yeah, I mean that's weird.
Another fun thing for the Cal game is it's on Thursday, which usually is bad for USC, but since they're coming off the bye, Cal's the one who has the short week, so that's nice for once. It's at the Coliseum.
I generally hate the Thursday games, but I think that like the Thursday off of the bye is always the best because then you kind of have like almost like two buys.
Right, you get two extended days, two extended weeks.
Like I always like. I'd always want to play that Thursday game at home, but yeah, like that. I always like that. I mean, I think the Pac-12 schedules it, so they probably don't have much say in it, but
right.
That's pretty nice.
Well, for once, I think it breaks good for USC. Usually in the past, those Thursday games break bad for SC.
Yeah.
Like Utah.
Plus, those Thursday games, like if you're like me, you don't have to worry about not having the Pac-12 network.
Oh, you don't get the Pac-12 network either? That was going to be one of my questions I forgot to ask you.
Well, no, and let me go back to Colorado. Like, it's kind of crazy because I think most people up here, like, they all have DirecTV because it's an NFL town. So if you want to get the NFL Sunday ticket, you have to have DirecTV. Well, almost all the Colorado games are on the Pac-12 network. Like, I think the only one that wasn't was the Michigan game, which was on the Big Ten network. But that was before, like, people thought, oh, Colorado's kind of good. So, like, the USC game, like, I kind of wanted to watch it because I'd never really seen Colorado. But, like, yeah, it was on the Pac-12 network. Like, it just stunk.
Yeah. Pac-12 network is garbage.
Sorry, go back to your Thursday night. Like, that
was it.
That
was it.
Yeah, even though it starts at 8:30 my time, like, it's still, at least I have a chance to watch it.
Well, that's good. All right, let's do this. Let's see. So the line started at 14. No, it started at 11.5, and now is at 15.5 for USC.
Ooh.
I'm going to take the points, but I'm pretty confident USC is going to win.
Go ahead, Tim.
Yeah, I should let you go first. You're a guest.
Yeah. So
you're not a good host, but
no, I'm not.
That's so.
Well, hey, what's the number on the over under? Because I know last week Cal and Oregon had a FBS record 89.5.
This is 75.5.
Ooh,
Jesus.
That's a lot of points. I think it's the under too.
I like the under, and I like USC like 45-24.
Oh wow.
It's only 21. It's not like
Well, yeah.
45-24.
I think Cal gets the garbage touchdown to blow the cover.
Oh.
That's kind of where I'm thinking.
So like it's 45-24 and then they score?
Yeah. Like they make a run in the fourth quarter and score like 17 points or something.
Well, so let me ask. Oh, go ahead, Greg. Sorry.
Oh yeah, Greg hasn't picked it.
I'm going to take the points.
Smart.
I mean, Cal can score, man. Like, I think USC probably wins, but Cal can score the ball. I mean, you know, I don't feel like I don't think the way that they play as fast as they play, like I don't see USC only giving up 3 touchdowns. Like they'll probably have at least 12 possessions. They're giving
You
up way
figure-
more than 3 touchdowns.
No Don Hill, no Osa Messina, and no Jabari Ruffin to sub in and out. With depth at that outside linebacker spot.
I considered none of that. I just get like you figure, like I said, they're gonna have the ball 12 times. The way they play offense, I just don't. I don't see how they don't score at least 5 touchdowns. Now, granted, USC might score 7.
What was the score last year, Mike?
Oh my God! Don't make me do research.
Oh, well, my next question was going to be who has Cal lost to this year, but I thought you might already know that.
No,
Well,
the Cal games are not even late for me on the West Coast, so like I never know how they end. I always like I'll get to the third quarter. I'm like, oh, this is close.
I thought. Well, the only reason I was asking because like last year they had Jared Goff and he was the number 1 pick, and like I thought USC just crushed them last year. And it was at Cal last year.
It was at Cal last year. That is true. Let's see. Cal's lost to San Diego State. They've lost to Arizona State. They've lost to Oregon, and they've lost to Oregon State. And in each of their losses, they've scored over 40 points, or 40 points or more. Excuse me.
Yeah.
Jesus.
And they beat Utah. I know that. That was like a last-second stop.
And they beat Texas.
Yeah, but Texas isn't good.
Right, but Utah is a real defense, and they scored 28 points.
Those at home, though.
But still.
What was the score last? Are you looking up the score last year?
I am.
Help me out here.
You're ruining the magic here. Keep talking.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, it feels like in these types of games, and that's part of the reason I said last year, like Cal just gets totally dominated. And maybe it's because they come one-dimensional, but I don't know. Like, when you can just have guys like rush the passer and not have to worry about like runs, like.
All right. It was on Halloween. It was a Halloween game at noon at Berkeley Memorial Stadium, and Cal lost 27-21.
Oh, it's that close, huh?
It was close.
Holy smokes! I thought they lost.
Well, I think the number that you're looking at though is 21.
Yeah. Man, I must have got my years mixed up. I don't know. Like, and this obviously has nothing to do like year to year. But like USC just always seems to have their number and kind of just every single year, like just does kind of whatever they want with them. Now maybe the 27 doesn't prove much, but the 21, like,
right.
It would just surprise me if like this was competitive in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm with you.
I will not be surprised, and I believe it will be.
Wow, voice of dissent.
I just think it'll be close.
Yeah.
All right, fair enough. All right, so let's go. One of the real reasons we brought Tim on is Notre Dame talk.
Yes.
It's been rough. It's been rough for you guys. How you feeling?
It's been great.
I mean, if I'm being completely honest with myself, Notre Dame does not compare anywhere close to the Dodgers.
I like that. How you rationalize
it. Maybe that's because, like, for me, the season's been over for a month and a half, right? So they lose to Texas, and like, look, like watching the game, you know, you don't know what to expect from Notre Dame. You kind of feel like they're going to be pretty good. So like when you see Texas offensively, you feel like, oh, like look at Texas, like, you know, they finally turned the corner and all this, and you know, then Notre Dame kind of does the same thing as USC. They go out and they beat like a pretty mediocre team. Not even mediocre. Like Nevada's not good. And I guess the whole thing coming into the season is Notre Dame was pretty mediocre on defense last year, and they lost their 2 best players. So like it would always be hard to kind of rationalize like, well, they're going to be better. Like they're obviously not going to be better. But you thought like, oh, offensively, like with Deshaun Kaiser and maybe Malik Zaire's back and the offensive line. I mean, I guess the most disappointing thing is they're 2-5 against like not good teams. right? So it's not like, oh, they've lost to Alabama and they've lost to, other top 25 teams. Like none of the teams, and Greg, correct me if I'm wrong, none of the teams they've lost to is in the top 25.
No,
Yeah.
It's the worst first seven games that are teams that I can remember. I can't remember a worse opening seven schedule.
I mean, Michigan State only has 2 wins, Furman and Notre Dame.
Furman's they got a good program over there. I'm just kidding. I have no idea.
So yeah,
It's a total wasted opportunity.
Yeah.
Now that being said, if they had figured out a way to win those games, this is not a good team. I mean, the reason that they're not winning these games is because, they're just not very good.
Right.
So, I mean, it's not like a good team threw away an opportunity. It's like a bad team.
Right. Like even if they would have won a couple of these close games, they're still not.
It's like even if they flipped it, they'd be, let's say they're 5-2 instead of 2-5. What's different?
Well, at 5-2, they're going to get embarrassed in a bowl game, and at 2-5, they won't be embarrassed.
Right.
So that's really, legitimately, that's the only thing that's different.
Right.
I guess the one difference, if people, I listen to every single podcast. I was definitely quicker on the Brian Kelly, he's got to go. Greg was definitely Brian Van Gorder's got to go. And I guess for me, it's more just this is year 7. I don't care about injuries at this point. I don't care about guys leaving. It's this is year 7. If you want to be serious about football, then this has got to be unacceptable in year 7. I don't know. And I only thought about this 30 minutes before we started. But Gene Chizik won a national title. He didn't even get to year 7. Brian Kelly didn't win the national title.
The program should be in such good shape that things like this don't happen.
Yeah, the down years should be 10-3, right? That should be the down years, not oh my gosh, we're not even gonna make a bowl game against a terrible schedule. Certainly, look, when you start over, the whole program is gonna be an upheaval. But generally, I think if you look at the really successful coaches and when they took over, if you have the right coach, it's going to turn around really quick. Not that Oregon was in bad shape, but when Chip Kelly took over, they hadn't been to a major bowl game in a really long time. And they'd only been to 1 or 2 major bowl games in 50 years. And he goes to 4 straight, right? What was Alabama before Nick Saban took over? They had the Mike Price fiasco. They had Mike Shula. Just a bunch of mediocre teams. And it turns around by year 2. But basically by year 2, it's always turning around.
Well, Bama and Notre Dame isn't really apples to apples.
They're both good schools.
Right, but Bama's playing by different rules.
Well,
yeah, but was Bama not playing by those different rules the 20 years before
Nick
Saban?
No, I know. No, I'm not throwing shade at Nick Saban. What I'm saying is you can't have a turnaround like that at Notre Dame with Nick Saban, because Nick Saban wouldn't go to Notre Dame because he wants to play by the rules that Alabama plays by.
Well, right, and that's legitimate, but at the same time, what Chip Kelly was able to do at Oregon, that didn't happen by accident.
No, it didn't.
Right.
Notre Dame has good
Oregon
players
is
too.
also not playing. Oregon is also playing by different rules.
But you make it sound like Notre Dame only goes and recruits valedictorians. Come on, man. They've had a couple number one draft picks every year.
I'm saying that what Chip Kelly did and what Nick Saban did, okay, there is a reason that Urban Meyer was an assistant coach under Lou Holtz and Bob Davie at Notre Dame and had the chance to come to Notre Dame in 2005, and he did not. I mean,
look, like
that's all you
legitimate.
need to know. That's all you need
But-
to know. So like,
don't-
go ahead.
Oh, okay, so like the Chip Kelly thing, like yes, like what Nick Saban and Urban Meyer with the classes they can get at Alabama and Ohio State, like Notre Dame can't get. But go look at the classes that Chip Kelly had. Like they're not top 10 classes.
Mm-mm.
So like maybe you can't get those exact kids that he got, but like Oregon's still limited by their location as well. Like, yeah, they've got a bunch of fancy stuff, but like they're still generally, other than maybe DeAnthony Thomas, like not getting the kids out of Southern California that they want. Like they're kind of getting USC's leftovers. Same thing out of Texas. So, I mean, look, like four BCS games in 4 years. You know, I know they lost the national title game on a last second field goal. They won a Rose Bowl. I mean, at 2-5 in your 7th year, like it feels like you could get anybody to do that, I guess, is what I'm saying.
But I mean, totally correct. I'm not. This is less of a defense of Brian Kelly, and it's more of a just.
It's hard to recruit at Notre Dame.
It's not that it's hard to recruit at Notre Dame. There's just a lot more pressures, and for me, like, there's a lot more that goes into being the head coach at Notre Dame than that goes into being, you know, the head coach at Oregon, for example. For me, it's not so much like a middling year. Like Brian Kelly's had 2 good seasons, and he's had 5 mediocre seasons, or 4 mediocre seasons, and then
This
disaster. So like, I don't understand. Like I've been trying to think about why they managed to go, you know, 9-4 with Tommy Rees, and just like not good running backs, and like 2 wide receivers who one of them was a 6th round pick in TJ Jones, who I don't know is even in the NFL, and another one
I think
who
he was with Detroit. I don't know.
he was with Detroit for a spell. I don't know if he's still
Yeah,
is.
I don't know if he's. I don't either.
And DeVaris Daniels is having a really good season for like the Calgary Stampeders in the CFL. So, like, how did that team go 9-4, and this team with Deshaun Kaiser looks like, you know, an FCS school?
Yeah.
I don't. So that's the thing that I've been trying to decide is like, why is this so terrible?
Well, the recruits will tell you that. What did that kid say this week? He didn't like talking to Brian Kelly.
Oh, Donovan Jeter.
Yeah.
Okay, I have a real problem with. I mean, and he walked it back today, so I don't want to get too crazy on him. But it's like, dude, you visited one, like you committed there. Now, granted, you know, if Brian Kelly was so terrible to talk to, and you had to make an appointment and he put you off, then why did you commit to the school? Like, he visited one time and he committed. Like, so then what did you commit to?
Yeah.
Like,
No,
obviously,
I
like, look,
totally agree.
you want to have cold feet, then have cold feet. I don't care. Like, you know, that's a narrative that some other coach probably got in his ear and fed him. Like, in my opinion, what Brian Kelly's problem is he doesn't, like, this is a team that doesn't know how it's going to win games. Like, they don't have, you know, the stereotypical, like, signature. Like, they don't have an identity. Like, they don't know how they're going to win. Like, every game they get in, they get down, and then they kind of come back, and then they fall short at the end. Like, they don't know what winning looks like, and now it's just been manifested. And it's because of the way that he runs the team that, you know, they get into these lulls. Like everything is like Deshaun Kaiser's constantly checking at the line of scrimmage, you know, and he allows the defense to dictate what his offense is going to run. I mean, they run the same plays over and over again. I mean, Tim, you watch the games, like I watch the games. Like, I can just tell by formation and
Right.
down in
Like
distance. Like,
you know exactly what
you
it's
just
gonna be.
think like, oh, they're going to run this play or this play or this play. Like if I'm thinking
Yeah.
that, then the defense obviously knows, and the defense knows like, hey, if we show them this look, they'll check out of it, and then they're going to check to one or two different plays. And they're so dependent on scheming their way because like they always want people to be open, right?
Yeah.
It's a I'm trying, and like Oregon does this, but Oregon does it a lot better. Maybe
Well, not
because
this year.
well, right, but
Yeah.
but Chip Kelly, like I mean with Chip Kelly, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And you know, they can scheme their way to guys being open, and
Right.
when you're counting on that, and then you got a bunch of young guys who, you know, they're not as good or they're not as consistent. It's like you're going to have lulls where you're just not doing very well. And then at Notre Dame, everyone's going to be like, well, shoot, we haven't scored on 4 straight possessions. Like now everyone's kind of panicking. And then you have a bad defense because your defensive coordinator is a goofball. So in those 4 possessions you didn't score, they scored 3 times. So now you're down 21. You know, the way that he runs the team, the way that he has set up his team kind of left him susceptible to this kind of a situation.
But it had never been a problem up until, 5 weeks ago. Like you always thought
it kind of was because because I was thinking too, like the 2014 football team, that the team that barely lost to Florida State, which in my opinion should have been a victory. Like you look at the second half of their season and it looks incredibly similar to the first half of this season.
Yeah.
Like they started
totally
6-1 and they finished 7-5. You know,
right.
So like it was in there. Like they had this kind of play in them, and so it's there.
I mean, the only thing that I can think is like the difference between last year and this year, because last year they go 10-3, but like out of those 10, who did they beat? Right? Like they beat Navy and they beat Temple. Like those are their 2 best wins.
Yeah.
And they lost, and like granted, they were, other than maybe the Ohio State game, like they were super close, like Stanford's last play, Clemson's pretty much last play. But like the 10 wins was against basically like mediocre teams. Now, like instead of having those 10 wins, you lose a couple key pieces, you lose Will Fuller, you lose Jalen Smith. And now instead of those 10 wins against mediocre teams, you're only going to get 3 or 4 against mediocre teams, and you're definitely not beating the good teams. But the only difference is they don't really have good teams on the schedule, so like there's no real chances for embarrassment, I guess, still, because they don't really play well, maybe with the exception of USC at the end of the year, they don't really play anybody who can do that to them. So I mean, maybe we should have seen this coming, like based on last year.
I think that in the real impetus for what we've seen just for the team period is, I think, going into the season, they had this quarterback controversy that could not be afforded to be screwed up, and it was. I mean, everyone knew it from the start of spring practice. This situation cannot be bungled, and it was. They got to the first game. I mean, we're talking like April practice, and from April to September, they didn't figure it out, and they were playing 2 guys. And I told Mike, and maybe like our first podcast of the year, like they're not thinking about how they're going to win games. They're thinking about how are we going to handle this quarterback situation. And so not surprising that a team now makes a decision at quarterback and they don't know who they are. They don't know how they're going to win. And, when the feet are to the fire and they have to kind of figure out like, okay, how are we going to, what are we going to do at the end of these games? Because like I've been saying, they've had the ball with a chance to tie or take the lead in every single loss. and they haven't
Yeah.
done it. It's because they don't have anything that they're ready to rely on because they were too busy goofing off and figuring out like who are we gonna play in August? Like we're gonna split reps. Like even now, like Malik Zaire is taking 40% of the reps. It's ridiculous.
I would say the other thing too, like especially offensively, and maybe with the exception of the Syracuse game, like last year, it felt like you could count on a drive or two a game where like you don't have to put together a drive.
Right.
Like, you're gonna hit a home run. Well, when you don't have that this year, like, I mean, it's just hard to consistently score when you have to have like 10, 12 play drives. It's really hard.
And they always have red zone problems. That's been around for a while.
Right, exactly. So,
well, but
yeah.
they've actually been really good in the red zone this year. Their problem is they are terrible on third down. And that's another problem. It's like, so they know they're terrible on third down. So they game plan to not get in third downs. That's why they're always throwing on first and second down because they don't want to run.
Yeah.
They're afraid of 3rd and 3. They don't want to be in it. And you look at a team like Michigan or Ohio State, like they're not afraid of 3rd and 3.
They're dying to be.
Yeah, they're fine with that. They're winning if they're in 3rd and 3 all the time. So, you know, it's just one of those things where, you know, they messed it up in the beginning, and then it just manifested itself throughout the whole season. And then you look at DeShone Kizer in the last game, like he just looks completely lost, just out of it.
Well, I mean, he'd rather be playing baseball, so that's what I've been saying all year.
You said that last year, dude.
That's why I was a Zaire guy. Like, I mean, look, like, admittedly, like, probably not right, but like, I mean, DeShone Kizer, like, and maybe it was the Showtime thing rubbed me the wrong way, but like, I want my quarterback to be all in. Like, I don't want him to be thinking about like, oh, what would happen if I could still be hanging out with my high school baseball friends.
So we should do backstory. So last year during the Showtime series, DeShone Kizer went home
on the bye week,
and they did a thing, and he made a comment about, you know, after the spring, I was thinking about like, should I just even be playing baseball? Should I not be playing football? You know, and then he
became the starting quarterback.
Was the backup, became the starting quarterback, and he became kind of like this sensation. But
yeah,
like that's what Tim is talking about.
It's always rubbed me the wrong way. It really has.
I think it's less that. I mean, you might be onto something that like he might be thinking about his draft stock and protecting that.
Yeah, I mean, I only say it like kind of half jokingly, and I mean, I did kind of mean it, like, admittedly, like when we were talking like before the year, like I was more of a Zaire guy, which basically lasted for about 3 possessions into the first game. But yeah, like I guess when you like, and maybe you have more access into the NFL quarterbacks, but like when I see these NFL guys, the really successful ones, and like the commitment and game planning and attention to detail it takes, like, I understand like you can't do that in college, but like I still kind of want that mindset. And obviously he doesn't have it. Like he doesn't have that. I mean, does that mean he can't be successful in college? Like, no, it doesn't mean it, but like it would sure be nice if like all he thought about was like being quarterback or playing quarterback and what to do. But yeah, I mean, now with draft stock, I mean, Greg, you know better than I do. Like I know like if he left, like he's going to be like, you know, a top 10 pick.
I don't know.
He was. Who knows now? Yeah.
It's like I said last week. How can you pick him? He's in a major school. He has a losing record.
I don't know. Jay Cutler went in like the top 10.
At Vanderbilt.
Yeah, he was at a loser school. Like this guy's at a good school.
I'd like
doing
to think
that.
if
I don't know. Blake Bortles went. Didn't Jared Goff have a losing record? Like maybe that's not the best example, but like I think Jared Goff had a losing record at college. Like Blake Bortles didn't even go to a big school. Like Carson Wentz went to an FCS school,
but he won
right. But
titles.
it's like yeah, like I mean, look. All I'll say is this: this is what I'm gonna say. Deshaun Kaiser has started 18 games at Notre Dame. He's 10-8. Okay, and that includes last year.
Sounds like he'd be perfect for the Rams.
I mean, he'd be perfect for the Browns. I'll tell you that.
No, not enough losses for the Browns.
By the way, just so we're like in the same time frame, Tommy Rees 14-4 first 18 games.
So how do you want this season to end? Like, do you care anymore? Do you want like dumpster fire? Do you want them to win out? Do you want like what's best case scenario here for you guys as fans? Like, I guess you always want your team to win, but
Tim does not.
Okay.
Well, I don't know how he feels in this situation, but I promise you that he is completely willing to see the whole thing just burn to the ground.
I would go dumpster fire too, just if we're scoring at home.
I mean, look, like a lot of the stuff that I hear or like get from Notre Dame is from Greg, in all honesty. So like when I see stuff, like I'll kind of ask him like, hey, like how true is this, or what do you think? And now, like, I saw something where like the AD is like fully behind, Brian Kelly, and they're expecting him to be in like week 1 next year. And then Greg's like, yeah, but that's what they said about Van Gorder. But everything like I've read is like, hey, like he's gonna get this 1 year, like as like a hey, like, all right, we're not gonna fire you, but then like maybe next year. So I mean the difference between going 2-10, which like. I mean, realistically, like, I just don't think they will. Like, I refuse to believe they're losing to Navy and Army in back-to-back weeks. So, like, I think worst-case scenario is you're probably looking at, like, 3-9. Probably the more likely scenario is, like, 4-8 or 5-7. If none of those are going to get him fired, then, like, I really just want them to beat USC. Like, the rest I don't even really care about because, like, what does it really matter?
I think 2-10 and 3-9 would get him fired.
Oh, so I got something to hope for.
Yeah, I think it would because, like, and I'll tell you this: the reason that I say that is because, like, yeah, first of all, he gave him the full vote of confidence, like he'll be our coach next year.
Oh, that's always bad news.
Well, like, consider the fact that like it was during the bye week and the coaches are out recruiting.
Right. So, like, yeah,
they can tell the players, like, hey. The AD just said, like, I'll be like, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
But just like the fact that we're even having the conversation, like before the season, like I was writing articles about how like they were ready to turn the corner. And now we're having a conversation about what would have to happen for him to be fired. Like, they can pretend that it's not really a thing, but it's a thing. And, I didn't like losing to Duke, not scoring like giving up 11 points combined by the defense in 2 games and losing both of them. Like I didn't think that was even possible. So, and like neither did the athletic director. Like if they lose, if they lose by like 20 to Navy, I mean, losing to Navy at Notre Dame when people were already mad at you is not a good thing. So, if he loses to Navy and they are 3-9 and the only one they win is Army, and the last one is to USC by like 28, like I've been saying it. Once the alumni and the people, the donors at the school, once they've made a decision, that's it. Doesn't matter what the AD thinks. It doesn't matter what the players think. It doesn't matter anything. Once they are out, they are out.
So go ahead.
They just stopped paying Charlie Weiss, so like they've got some extra money lying around, I'm sure, burning a hole in their pockets.
So since I have 2 Notre Damers here with me, Notre Dame fans, I have a question. Do Notre Dame fans not living in the West Coast like ourselves care about beating USC? What's the sentiment on that rivalry? I feel like Notre Dame has a lot of rivals. and since we live in sunny Los Angeles, it's a little biased to the importance. What's the feeling around the school?
Go ahead, Greg. You're married to an alum.
But she lives in Southern California too.
That's true. Well, she lived in New York for a little bit.
True.
She lived on the East Coast for a long time.
Yeah.
What do they like? What's the hatred?
I'm just curious. Like, where does the USC rivalry rank on Notre Dame rivalries?
Well, it's the every year thing. I think USC has become more of a measuring stick lately. Like, are we beating USC? If we're not, then the program is kind of doo-doo. If we are, then hey, like, we are on the right track. I guess.
And
like
they
that.
do have
Like,
a lot of,
go ahead.
they do have a lot of rivals, but like with the whole ACC thing now, like they've only played 2 teams like every year the last 25 years, right? Like just Navy and USC. Like even Stanford, like they play every year now, but like they didn't, at the beginning of the 90s or in the 80s. I mean, they don't do Michigan State. They don't do Purdue. I mean, Michigan's on and off. So, I mean, the Navy thing, obviously you just expect to win. So yeah, I would say like, I mean, that's their number one rival because there's only really 2 of them.
All right.
I mean, who else? Because if it's not USC, who else is it? Then it's
Right.
Navy, and it's obviously not.
It's
Navy.
It's not Navy.
It's the rivalry, but like just for me personally, like I don't care about like I want to beat USC. Like I liked it. I was more like I really need them to beat USC. Like when I used to listen to sports talk in LA, but I don't anymore. So I don't really care. Like if they were to play like Michigan.
Well, let me ask you this. Hold on. Let me ask you this. But wouldn't you say that coincides with like USC not being really good?
Probably.
Yeah, likely.
Because like now, like yeah, like I want to beat USC really bad too. But like, if both teams are 6-5 going into the game, it's like yeah, it'd be nice to win, of course. But like, I'm not gonna remember this game like 15 years from now. Like, who cares? And like, I would imagine the minute that like right after 2008 is kind of when like all this other media came along where it wasn't going to be sports talk, and it's like, yeah, Notre Dame's won whatever it is, like 4 of the last 6. I mean, I want them to beat good teams. Like, what was the last good USC team they beat?
Good USC team?
Yeah.
Yeah, good USC team.
Didn't we have this conversation already?
No, that conversation that we had was when was the last time they blew out USC? Which also was a very long time ago.
Well, I think it's the same answer.
Oh, really?
I think so. So in 1995, Notre Dame beat number 5 USC 38-10. Muto's boy Keyshawn Johnson. That was in 95. I don't think USC's been really good when Notre Dame's beaten them since then.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
The 2000 team was bad. The 01 team was bad. They didn't win for like 8 years before that. 2010 was bad.
I mean, 2010 was super nice just because I will remember that actually because me and you were watching that together at Deb's parents' house. But just because that had been 8 years or whatever. Right.
Well, I mean, that was cool, but that team was really bad. Like 2012 USC was bad. 2013, that was a terrible game. 2014, I refuse to even acknowledge.
I was there.
Yeah, and then 2015. I mean, I think last year's 2015 team, like they were okay.
They were okay. Yeah, like they were a total dumpster.
I think that's probably the best team that they've beaten.
Yeah,
in a while.
Yeah.
Well, in 20 years.
Yeah. So yeah, 2015 and then 1995.
Yeah, I mean, going back to your question, Mike. Like, I want them to beat USC this year, but I mean, it's not like it's, like even for USC, like the best case scenario is that's their 4th loss. And I mean, Notre Dame's not winning that game. Like, let's be serious. Like, they're not winning that game. Come on.
I hope not. All right, Notre Dame this weekend. There, Miami's coming to South Bend. Miami is a 2.5-point road favorite. Tim, our guest, your thoughts on the game?
2.5-point road favorite. Man, you know what's weird? Like all the stuff that we talked about in Notre Dame. I was actually like looking at the rankings today, and I saw that Nebraska was ranked like 7th or 8th, and I had kind of thought like Notre Dame could beat them. Like they're 7th in the country. I mean, Miami's not good either. They've had a ton of issues. I'll take the points in Notre Dame, I guess.
Home dog.
Home dog, live home dog, coming off a bye. Everyone told them how bad they were.
I'm also taking the points in Notre Dame.
Ooh, I like when you pick Notre Dame, Greg.
I have a feeling about it, and unfortunately, like I think the feeling is just like it has to end at some point. They can't continue to be this bad.
They're due.
And there's still sadness behind the pick. That's the other best.
Well, I will say this. Brian Kelly sent them home for a week. They didn't practice at all during the bye, which I think is a good idea. I actually think that was the right thing to do. So I think they needed to get away from it. Little time for self-reflection. Yeah, I don't know. I think they're gonna have a good plan, I guess.
All right. I'm a follower if there ever was one, so I'll take the points too. I trust you guys. Did I miss any other fun Notre Dame USC news and notes? We got player kicked out. We got recruit decommitting.
Oh yeah.
Anything else? I don't think so.
Notre Dame got a commitment.
I don't care about recruiting. I don't really care about recruiting. Unless
it was a California kid.
Ooh.
Yeah. La Mirada.
All right.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, real quick. St. Francis 8-0, Mike, against Cathedral this week. 8-0.
It's going to be on the Fox Go app. So if anyone really wants to watch St. Francis play Cathedral, 2 California teams, it'll be on the Fox Go app.
Yeah, big time.
Free plug.
Former St. Francis quarterback Ty Ganji is the quarterback at Nevada, who we talked about earlier.
Yes, I saw that.
He gets a lot of time. All right. Well, I guess that's it for today. We got to thank Tim Norkus for coming on the show. You can, if you enjoyed Tim, you could listen to him on the Tilting Ground NFL podcast. And then when the season wraps up, him and Greg have their own little morning paper that they do. They cover issues of the week, pressing issues.
Can't wait.
Generally sports.
Yes.
Let's see, Greg. You did not have an article last week. I was kind of bummed.
It'll be out. It should be out tomorrow, I think.
Okay.
It was a bye week.
So the stock market still moves.
Good point.
It's true.
Get more Greg out there. Come on, quit throwing shade. So Greg has an article on uhnd.com that should be up tomorrow. Anything else? Follow us on Twitter. Follow us on iTunes. Write reviews. Write comments. Tell Tim how good he was and thank him for coming on our show. I'm Michael Muto on Twitter. Greg, what's your Twitter?
At Greg2126.
You've been a little quiet lately.
Hey, I was firing off tweets today. Calm down.
Okay. All right. So thank you, everyone, and fight on.
Go Irish.
Oh.